Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure for me to join you for this panel session of Nextv CEO Africa. So this panel is sponsored by Broadpeak and the Access Orca, and we are going to talk about the growth of OTT and the core issue of the monetization of streaming platform services. So today, to talk about it, we have with us Pascal Biro. You are the Vice President of Sales EMEA at the Access Orca, which is a subsidiary of Orange that provides, among others, a range of video products, including security, service platform, and video player. We have also with us Greg Kelly. You are the founder and CEO of Africa XP, a South African company that facilitates the development and worldwide distribution of African content. In the region, you also operate a free-to-air bouquet, which is available on satellite. With us also today, Xavier Leclerc, the Vice President of Business Development at Broadpeak. Broadpeak develops OTT video solutions with multiscreen as well as CDN and local cache technologies. And finally, last but not least, Catherine Njeri. You are the Senior Manager of Strategy and Business Development at Safaricom, the leading telco of Kenya. Not only facilitating the access to OTT, you also include video and digital innovation in the development strategy. So thank you to be with us today. Before starting the conversation, I would like to share some figures of that Axis research to get an overview of the market and its dynamic. So quickly, just a mention of connectivity. So in parallel with the network development, internet access is growing in sub-Saharan Africa steadily with more and better access. So on the fixed part, fixed broadband, we count 9.5 million fixed connections at the end of 2020, of which about 30% are already fiber lines. All countries together, it represents a total household penetration of 4%. Worthy of note also, almost half of the broadband connection are attributed to South Africa, which is developing very rapidly thanks to a wholesale model. In parallel, on mobile, it's much more impressive. The region counts over 400 million mobile connections, so to say a penetration rate of 37% of the population. And the share of 4G is currently at 22% and is growing fast, especially in urban areas. What is noticeable is that internet access is mainly mobile, and this is reflected in the development of the local OTT offer. We will see that later. At the moment, there are about 30 paid platforms active in the region. We count almost 4 million subscribers on content library, so SVOD services, to which we can add some 300,000 subscribers on live TV channel services, OTT pay TV as we call it. So monetization through subscription remains challenging, and today we are exploring with you guys innovative ways to break into the OTT models. So I turn to the panelists of today for the first question. Seeing that the TV consumption habits are changing in Africa, all players are looking towards OTT to develop attractive offer. What challenge needs to be addressed when it comes to it? Maybe Craig, you can start with your proper view and experience at Africa XP. You are on mute.
Excuse me.
Perfect, welcome.
Yeah, the African broadcast space has a great many challenges for people to deal with in all areas. In the OTT space, we have legacy problems which are gradually being resolved, but not fully resolved. Of course, one of the first problems that OTT operators had to engage with was the low penetration of smartphones. That has increased to quite a nice penetration, and Catherine could probably, the mobile operators keep track of this better than we do, but I think it's over 50% in many markets. One of the things driving that has been the speed of the bandwidth, and mobile operators now have a lot of high-speed broadband available. So from a technical perspective, the speed is available, and users can have a good user experience. And then comes the issue of the user experience is good, but what is the price of the broadband? And by price, I don't just mean the price relative to international markets. I also mean the price relative to income within the African context. So cost of broadband is a constraint. And then also ability to bill is a constraint. And finally, I think one of the big questions that is really out there right now is the broadband is fast enough, the phones are there. Will the rollout go wide enough? Will it be only in major urban areas, or will high-speed broadband roll out into less densely populated areas? And I think the consensus around that is, certainly with technologies like 5G, that will not be the case because the commercial model doesn't sustain that. And so how does one then cope with these two different environments? One reality in high density areas and a very different reality outside of those areas. And for us, something that we are very conscious of is that we need to solve that, and by looking at solutions like IP over satellite as a means of delivering outside the areas where there is high-speed mobile broadband.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Before jumping into the technological solution, I wanted to ask you, Xavier, the same question as a infrastructure and OTT solution player. What challenge needs to be addressed according to you?
So I think, we're starting off, with some good topics here, right? Connectivity is important. Will 4G and 5G be able to go far enough? I think, those are, really interesting questions. Can we combine with satellite? Can we combine with other networks? Hopefully we'll get a bit more time to talk about it. I just wanted to come back on the mobile aspect, right? I think there's something very specific here with mobile in Africa and obviously the demographics of the African market that are basically creating a mobile-first opportunity for the video service providers, right? We see OTT, obviously, in other parts of the world rising, but I think in Africa, very much mobile networks are becoming a vector for the OTT video distribution. So we started to see, I think, some very exciting markets, Craig's market in South Africa, for example, Catherine's market in Kenya, and I'll probably add that Nigeria, the Nigerian market to that is also ripening and getting ready for more OTT distribution. So it is interesting, right? For us, we're very much linking the mobile aspect, bringing the connectivity, bringing the bandwidth with the opportunity of launching new OTT video services.
And thank you, Catherine. As a mobile operator and more broadly a telco operator, what is the core issue according to you?
Thank you for that. I'll just build from where Craig has stopped, and because he echoes the same thing. So connectivity is an issue, smartphone penetration is an issue, data affordability is an issue. So I'll tell you what the telco, Safaricom to be specific, what we have done in terms of smartphone penetration. Sometime last year, mid last year, what we did is we launched a proposition where customers can have access to smartphone devices at 20 bob. It's what we call lipa mdogo mdogo. So it's device financing. So it's allowing customers to actually upgrade their 2G, 3G phones so that they can have smartphones. So we as a telco obviously know that's a big hindrance. So that's what we are doing at that point. And the uptake has been really good. And once you solve the smartphone penetration, then the next thing is usually a use case. What do you put on that device to encourage usage? So in terms of data affordability, well, you may think that telcos, in my opinion, that telcos are not doing much. In terms of pricing, we've come from far. It used to be very expensive. And now we can almost say we've gotten to a level per MB where it's really affordable. And how we also work with our content providers is to ensure we are able to bundle propositions, content proposition with data. When the customer picks up an over-the-top service, they don't have to think about subscription, and then they have to think about data. So create packages, data packages that are very affordable. And when the customer picks it up, they are in a position to be able to enjoy the service. And then, of course, what Craig is also saying, experience is key. And I think it's a big responsibility for a telco, especially if you position yourself as an aggregator, because where content is king, in my opinion, experience moving forward will be the queen, in my opinion. So that's it.
Thank you. Pascal, for you, what is the crucial point when it comes to OTT development and the challenge, of course, of the region?
Well, no, I think that my colleagues have, I've said pretty much what matters in terms of the market's challenges that need to be addressed and are, being addressed today. But maybe a couple of things I could throw in is the challenge in terms of, the technical hurdles that the service provider itself needs to overcome when deploying an OTT platform. So it's taking a different angle, but basically looking at a choice between deploying on-premise, service platforms compared to full cloudified services with different, infrastructure. So it's really a challenge deciding whether to operate a platform on-premise, which means that the service provider needs to have competencies internally to integrate and operate the service with a bit more capex to spend, compared to cloud services where it's time to market. It's much quicker, but less flexibility in terms of selecting the different components. So I would say that probably a best scenario is a mix of those two, deploying a pre-integrated solution in a private cloud, probably located in Africa, because you take advantage of a local network with local resources, hopefully an optimized cost that could serve multiple countries. So that's more of a technical way to answer the question.
On this point, I will let let Xavier talk about it, because you mentioned the technical level. How do you support the shift to OTT service at a technical level? Xavier.
Yep. So in a nutshell, right, OTT brings a lot of opportunities, right? With OTT, you have a direct link between the end consumers and the network. And this wasn't the case with the legacy broadcast, right? There's not this two-way communication that can happen between the end consumer and the network. So this basically allows personalization of the content. And one of the largest applications, one of the most popular applications of personalization is targeted advertising, right? So the concept is very simple. It's about serving different adverts to different consumers, not necessarily based on what they're watching, like in the past with broadcast, but instead focusing adverts and choosing adverts based on who the consumers are, right? So where do they live, what interests they may have. And we basically have the tools to deliver those adverts and the experience related to that to the end users.
Thank you. Before asking our two, Africa Iste and Safaricom that operates, I wanted to jump before to Pascal and ask first a view on the monetization, because this is the topic here, how you can monetize OTT service. Can you share about that?
Yeah, I guess monetizing OTT is a vast topic that's been spoken about many times, but so there are many angles to take a look at it. So One angle could be the content protection to secure the assets. You know, before monetizing, you need to secure. You could discuss about you know, the content offering, super aggregation to have optimized content offers and obviously monetize better. But I guess today we chose to look at the monetization through a more of a business rules angle. So I would say that, and it's been touched by Craig before, that the monetizing OTT, you have different ways. So prepaid services obviously are popular in the region in Africa. Subscription services also, and what we call now FAST. So it's, you know, free ad-supported TV, which includes all kinds of ad-funded services like AVOD. And eventually, at a later stage, when the service is mature, there's also a way to monetize OTT, which is by leveraging the data that the actual service is compiling, and that can be remonetized. But that's a bit more far-fetched. So yeah, Africa offers many advantages for as a market. You know, the growing population, the growing rate of connectivity. Prepaid, it's widely deployed, but it's like's been said, it's linked to data packages. It's time limited, so it might not be the best for TV services, but that's debatable. Subscriptions, they're deployed as well, but they're a bit more expensive, so they may not cover the whole social category. So it seems obvious that you know, freemium or AVOD, however you want to call it, seems to be an answer for Africa in terms of massifying OTT.
Thank you. We mentioned prepaid, the usage of the people. So I wanted to ask you, Catherine, as a local player that has a huge subscriber base, what is your strategy when it comes to monetization? What do you see as the balance between all the models that have been mentioned?
Well, for a telco, we are motivated by different things. But at the end of the day is helping everybody else monetize and benefit. So for a telco, it's more about data usage. So we definitely want to monetize and you know, make more money around data usage. Hence the reason why then we will do bundled content propositions with the aim of monetizing it in that way. Obviously, as my colleague has also said, subscription, content subscriptions is also a way of monetizing. And of course, where we are is Africa. It's, you know, we are price sensitive. So when you tell a customer to pay content, they are thinking, it's not working. So can you give me something else that is free? Then serve me an ad. So it's very true that the ad-supported model is one that needs to be implemented, and we do hope to work with different partners who have that sort of you know, models, and we can see how the customers will be able to treat. But we do a mix of them. We do the subscription, we do the bundled proposition, so it's data plus subscription, but we've not started implementing advertising. But in terms of a long-term view, we do know that that is where we need to be.
Thank you. And finally, Greg, can I ask you about your view on monetization strategy on OTT?
Yeah, I mean, the name of our primary business to consumer product in Africa is premium free. So that should be a strong hint as to where we think the opportunity lies. If one looks at the history of what we might call multi-channel broadcasting in Africa over the last 5, 10, even 20 years, we see successive failures of pay platforms, initially on satellites, but since OTT has been an option, we've seen a great many failures of OTT platforms coming into the market and wanting to sell. That, you know, the only reason that they failed hasn't been payment, because the market has shifted, the handset penetration has changed. It's a very fast moving environment. And so things that failed previously could succeed now, possibly with the same commercial model. We do, however, believe what Catherine is saying, we agree entirely that it's a very price-sensitive market. People guard their money carefully. When they are viewing stuff over OTT, most internet connections are to a mobile device, and that means through a mobile network, and they are conscious of the fact that the mere act of watching something is costing before you've even paid for it. In fact, Kenyans, a lot of Kenyans say we're paying twice. That's what they say. It's just, this is unreasonable. We're paying twice. And so, so we see providing free services as being important. Having said that, the other really exciting thing to realize is that the market is not well off. Income levels are relatively low, and I believe that advertising can generate more money than you could reasonably bill a person anyway. So for that reason, we are very firmly in favor of advertising, and in particular, we are very firmly in favor of dynamic profiled ad serving, server-side ad insertion, because advertisers will pay more for a profiled ad. And that speaks to what Pascal mentions when he says you can do something with the big data, but in fact, just serving ads properly is big data analysis in terms of deciding who you deliver to. And we're seeing the dividend of that data. I think an exciting area to explore is a collaboration between networks and media platforms, where previously the operators wanted to be the media platform. That hasn't worked out that well, frankly, and so now they have a much more interested approach in terms of engaging with media operators, and they have very exciting information, and it is that data that they have. And if we can find a way of leveraging the data that they have to further profile and enhance the value that an advertiser can get, I think we can go beyond just traditional server-side ad insertion to a sort of like hyper-intelligent server-side ad insertion for the benefit of both parties and for the consumer, because the more relevant advertising is to the consumer, the more benefit it is to them.
You're on mute, Mary, I think. Mary, you are muted.
Did we lose Mary?
I'm sorry. So I was saying, yeah, like to the vision to see the ecosystem as the industry as an ecosystem. And on this topic, I wanted to give the opportunity to Pascal to talk about this, how we can work together.
Okay, so so together with Broadpeak, we have a history of working together, and we have deployed our combined solutions in many markets already. We offer pre-integrated solutions, our carrier grade, taking the complexity away for the service provider and the operator, so that they can focus on maximizing revenue. So, on the topic that concerns us today, I think our combined strength, and to reflect to what Craig was just saying, is our ability to mix a server-side ad insertion and client-side ad insertion, because that enables us to address the hybrid scenarios of AVOD on one side, linear TV ad replacement, in-app ad insertion, or in-UI ad insertion. So the mix of our both technologies enable us to address those two side of things, and secondly, also to reflect on what Craig and Catherine were saying, aggregating different sources of data, because we have different components that we have pre-integrated together, so we get different sources of data. That actually builds a data catalog that is a great way to apply our algorithms on them and sell ads at a higher CPM and therefore leverage more revenues for the service provider. So Maybe,
yes,
maybe
because
Xavier.
all we are talking about is how also on this model, on AVOD model that we start to talk about, how to construct a strong digital advertising background and basics. And on this topic, Xavier, you can help also. You developed a solution.
Yep. So just building on what Pascal was saying, I think there's a bit of a debate on the client side or the server side at insertion, and yes, the two different techniques, they have their pros and cons. I think what is interesting here is from a broad big point of view, we focus on the server side ad technology simply because we believe it's easier to address all the devices. And in the solution, you will find everything you needed to deliver good quality of ads. I think Craig hit it on the head earlier, hit the nail on the head. Saying delivering ads is already sometimes a victory. Delivering good quality ads, I think, is important, right? So we provide everything required to do that, from the transcoding of ads, the manifest manipulation that are what I would say the bare bones, and then on top of it, when you want to drive the CPM up, you want to be able to have additional data, introduce policies, for example, introducing the ability to forbid skipping some of the ads, right? So my ads cannot be skipped, or my ad can be skipped only after 5 seconds. And this is something that you can sell back to the advertisers, right? So there is, I think an element here. We talked about the ecosystem. There's an element of trust, and working with established partners that work well together is important in this advertising ecosystem.
Can this solution be implemented also for pay TV operators?
Yeah, absolutely. So
maybe Xavier, you can.
Yeah, so it is interesting, where we said at the beginning, Africa has the opportunity to go basically to mobile first, to basically OTT direct, but in the world, we see a lot of legacy still being deployed. And one of our, what I would say, lighthouse deployment with Access Orca is the example of the second largest cable company in Mexico. They called Mega Cable, and they are transitioning from legacy broadcast to pure OTT, right, to delivering ABR video to their users. And what's driving this transition is the quality of experience, the simplification of all the devices, the cost as well, but also the opportunity to make more money using targeted advertising, right? So absolutely, this technology can be used on legacy networks transitioning to OTT delivery. And we very much feel like, this is a driver actually to move to OTT today.
Okay. Pascal, you can add some of your expertise on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to complement and continue, actually, this is a phased approach, right? And the case that Xavier just explained, and, starting with, launching AVOD and building an audience and building, data, and then later on being able to target, the advertising and use that data. The end game is really what I call a win-win-win scenario. We know the win-win, but now we have a triple win. So it's more like users get free service. So that's an obvious win. Advertisers finally get access to a massive digital audience. So especially in Africa, where advertisers are this is still a nascent market. And thirdly, service providers, they get massive user base because the start of a service is free. And that is a huge opportunity to upsell, because in the end, freemium to premium, it means that you want to upsell. And the way we built the solution in VO is that we apply machine learning and artificial intelligence to the data that we collect, which enables us to segment the data so that the service provider can then sell spots to advertisers that are more valuable. So segments can be, user preferences, user behavior, household composition, user demographics, and also something interesting is user exposure to ads and ad fatigue. Because when you have a service that is ad funded, you see a lot of ads, and you may get fatigued by all these ads. So these algorithms will let you know when to trigger an upsell opportunity, so that you don't lose the user.
This is exactly what you were talking about, Greg, the importance and how crucial it is to get such data in a comprehensive way as well, to understand, to have a better strategy and attract more advertisers. This being said, I wanted to ask you, because we talked before, the AVOD market is now captured mostly by the giant, not to name them, Google and Facebook. How do you position with them? Do you think it is a competition? How to compete?
Well, you know, the reason why they have most of the market is because they have most of the traffic right now. And I think, you know, what I said a little earlier is that most of the OTTs that have launched in Africa to date have tended to be pay platforms that have not succeeded. And with the shift towards more free alternatives, I think that will create more viewing minutes, and that function is supported by the enhanced understanding of the mobile network operators that people are going to be more reluctant to consume if the price is very high, and so there are more and more packages and inclusive packages and things like that, or more and more special video packages for data, which is helping drive up minutes. But the free part is extremely important, and that can be seen in the very impressive viewing sessions that Google has reported, where, you know, I think I saw stats where they were having session times of 54, 56 minutes in Africa. I couldn't believe it. When I say Google, I mean YouTube. Now, if they're having those stats, and you know, on a normal connection, not a package connection, the reason can be only that the quality of the content that they're finding, because there's so much choice there, is appropriate for them. They're viewing what they want to view, and their experience is good, and it's free. I think that with the emergence of and availability of more services, there will be more inventory, and a lot of advertisers have told media buying agencies and DSPs that they very specifically want to diversify their spend rather than send everything through YouTube and Facebook. So the mere availability of quality, relevant content, I think will shift that. At the end of the day, the advertiser wants a targeted person. I don't think the advertiser cares what platform it is sent through, as long as there are basic criteria in place that, you know, as long as there's not brand risk, it's the viewer that they want, and not the platform, really.
Yeah.
Very good universal view. Catherine, I wanted to ask you maybe the same and kind of opening question about how to create comprehensive offering, and how operator can play a game in the OTT development.
Well, with regards to content offering, for a telco, the things that we look for is obviously seeking to understand the audience first. We want to understand what is it that makes them tick, what content is of interest to them. And once you do the research, so for like us, we were able to go into a research process where we were able to understand what our customers really wanted. So it's a mix of very many things. So they are looking for inspirational content, entertainment, sports. I mean, it's everything. But more so, they are very aspirational, meaning they need a healthy mix of both international and local content. Local stories are very important to them. And then, so packing that aside in terms of what exactly do they want in terms of content, then the next thing is about access. So how exactly are they consuming that content? So is it through a mobile phone? Are they consuming it at home? Because the content you put on a mobile phone is absolutely different from what they will be watching at home. Of course, at home, they can view longer formats. When they're on the move, it's short format, and it's about engaging content that, they just chew it up very quickly and move on. So the kind of content offering is also dictated by the access of whatever it is that the customers are actually using at that point. So for us, our audiences is it's more engaging local content, local stories, a very aspirational audience, and of course, inspirational content. Faith-based content is very big for us here in Kenya. So those are some of the things that we look out for when we are creating or even working with over-the-top service provider. We want to find some sort of diverse content that will fulfill the needs of our customers.
In terms of content, what is also important, I think, is the integration. And I wanted to ask Pascal, how is it possible and how to successfully integrate quality content when it comes to free offer, as we mentioned before?
Well, I mean, just to rebound on what Catherine was saying, I think it's clear that it's all about the content, right? In the end, even if it's free, you still have to offer quality content. And I mean, this question could really open up to another debate about what we call super aggregation and being able to integrate different content sources and make it a unique offer, operator branded. Mixing different, content sources, whether they are local or international, but really to make it maybe more simple, I think that for freemium, you usually see long tail catalogs, movies that are maybe a bit older, not necessarily lower quality, but not newest releases. But older movies, and for freemium, for premium offers, you see the blockbusters and the newest releases. Also, I think it's important to say that local content is key for local advertisers, because if we want to bring on those advertisers, they need to be able to relate to a local content, to a local community, even local sports. Sports is big, but it's not just about soccer and the big American sports. It's also about local leagues and local sports. So that content is also very important.
Yes. We talked about content. We also jumped into the fact that it's an ecosystem. To link all that and also maybe to slowly jump into the conclusion, I wanted to ask Xavier about the perspective of value chain consolidation in free model, but in particular, but in OTT in general. And what did you see by experience in your market that can be applied in Africa?
That's a big question. So maybe I'll start with what we've seen, right? So from experience, right, we've deployed now targeted advertising in a couple of markets, from Israel to Singapore to Mexico that I mentioned earlier. So we started to see a broader picture. I think what is interesting with advertising is typically our customers, the telcos, building the infrastructure, they like to be able to invest based on an OpEx model. So earlier, Pascal mentioned, this, cloud and on-prem debate, whether you invest money upfront or not. There is something that can be done with advertising is basically invest very little at the beginning and then, basically have a full OpEx model. So do models based on revenue sharing, for example. And that's something that typically our customers like to see, right? It's flexible, it's low risk. And together, if the platform is successful, we will all be successful. So I think that's a good driver. Now, in terms of technology, I think there are many things happening. It's a very dynamic market right now, advertising. Maybe one example is what's happening in France today. So we started to do ad replacement for live TV channels in France directly onto the main screen, onto the TV set. Basically, the laws have changed in France over the summer. And now the TV channels are able to insert live adverts, so basically targeted adverts into the live streams. And so you may be watching basically, a football game, and then you will get different ads at the break than your neighbor. And this is a change because this is first, the main screen we're talking about, and it is also premium inventory, right? Pascal was talking about, how targeted ads can be done on various pieces of inventory. Here, this is a big shift, right? Because we're starting to see the likes of the largest, telcos, the Orange, the SFR, Bouygues, basically enabling business models in partnerships with content providers so that everybody wins. So going back to what Catherine said and what Craig said as well, the ecosystem is changing, it's ripening, and we're starting to see more content providers and basically service providers working together here. So, for the greater good, we think it's very beneficial. And if I was to maybe translate this to the African market, we see a lot of things evolving on the African market. I'm thinking about this company in Nigeria, Duchase, that basically provide all the building blocks to provide, to basically what I would say is enrich the market from the supply side platform, the SSP, to the DSP. They also have their own ad exchange. This is, I think, a very good example of how the African market is buoyant, right? We're going to see more and more development because we started to have this ecosystem that is building up. And we think, going forward with more OTT, with more connectivity, we're going to have more opportunity to do targeted advertising in those markets. So, we're starting to feel like the time is now, and hopefully we're going to see, some good success stories in the next couple of months or years.
Thank you. Talking about targeting advertising, I catch a question from the audience. So according to the panelists, is there any present time, any financial success story for OTT in Africa? We will not have the time to go really deep, but about the financial success, it was my last question to Pascal. Maybe you can wrap up with the question as well about the perspective of the targeted advertising.
Okay, I mean, I think the perspective is huge. Like I said, I think we have all the everything to build a success. I mean, the market seems to be a match for it. Not necessarily in the targeted right off the bat, but at least to start to massify OTT services with ad-funded services. First, bring the ads, and then second, target the ads. So, but I think all is here to really start. The solutions are ready. So as we explained with Xavier, we have pre-integrated everything, and we can deploy solutions really quickly. And it's all about putting all the actors around the table: the service providers, the content owners, the telcos, the advertisers, to really decide for the next steps. But I think we have a good story to write.
Okay. Any panelists wanted to add something for the question? Okay, so it's time to wrap up. I think that I will ask quickly your conclusion points. So maybe Greg, in one sentence, what do you think the future of free OTT will be like?
Yeah, I think we all are in agreement. It's quite a nice situation to observe that the various stakeholders are all aligned at this point. If you had been in an OTT conversation 5 years ago, the content owners would have been hitting the table, screaming and shouting and complaining about the networks and why the networks didn't see it correctly and wouldn't cooperate and didn't understand. And the technology providers all wanted to charge millions and millions upfront to deploy their solutions, and nobody could afford them. And the model was really, really high risk. And now OpEx models are available to reduce risk. And so I think the various stakeholders have kind of come together and have created models where risk is shared and upside is shared in an equitable and sustainable way. And that enables the deployment of services into the market and gives them a chance to succeed. And I think this is the correct model that will succeed. So I'm very excited.
Okay, thank you. Catherine, Xavier, Pascal and Greg, thank you very much. We have 1 minute left. I wanted to let the last talk to Pascal or Xavier, maybe just to say the last word to wrap up this session.
Xavier, go ahead. I said, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll say something very quickly. So I think two things, right? I think the first one is, local is important. So local channels, local content. We talked about local sports, local ecosystem, advertising, ripening. I think this is very exciting, but also foreign brands, they want to advertise in Africa. So there is, I think, a lot of potential here for the market. And maybe just to bounce and wrap up on Craig's point, it is through collaboration, right? We very much believe this. It is through collaboration that this is going to happen. Sharing the risk, sharing the success. This is, I think, the key for, establishing the trust and delivering at the end successful platforms.
Thank you. Thank you for this session, and see you later for the next panel.
Thank you.